Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a reality that often flies completely under the radar. And that is, a dementia diagnosis changes the life of the caregiver just as much as the patient. We're going to map out this unseen journey families are forced to embark on and really break down the practical strategies that can transform a deeply overwhelming experience into one of structured support and genuine connection. A dementia diagnosis changes far more than the life of the person receiving it. Think about that quote for a second. Behind the initial shock of the doctor's words is a whole family whose roles, daily routines, and realities are about to get flipped completely upside down. We're moving way beyond just the medical definition of dementia today to understand how it actively transforms life, communication, and decision-making for absolutely everyone involved. So let's get into Section 1, the hidden caregiver journey beyond the medical prescription. There's this massive gap in how a diagnosis is handled. When you're in the clinic, you get the medical facts, the clinical name for what's happening, maybe a prescription. But the literal minute you step back through your own front door, you suddenly need practical knowledge. Caregivers are almost never given a roadmap for navigating daily routines or managing changing behaviors. Yet, that practical, boots-on-the-ground education needs to start immediately, not years down the line when you're already burnt out. Moving right along to Section 2, Acceptance and Leadership, Shifting Family Dynamics. Look, it's a completely natural human instinct to just hold out hope, right? You hope for a super slow decline, or you pray a new medication is going to reverse things. But hoping often just leads to delaying the really tough choices. Acceptance, on the other hand, is the vital first step. Only by accepting the reality of the situation can you take real, impactful action to actually improve your loved one's quality of life. Acceptance allows families to plan instead of simply reacting. Stepping into that leadership role as a caregiver is incredibly heavy, especially if you're caring for a partner who's always been your total equal. You might feel like making decisions for them strips away their independence. But acceptance gives you the power to plan. Taking over decision-making isn't about removing their dignity. It's about actively protecting the person you love from unnecessary frustration and confusion. All right, Section 3, Building the Framework, the Power of Routine. Think about it like this. Every unexpected stop, every crowded grocery store, or sudden change of plans requires heavy cognitive processing. And for a brain dealing with dementia, that's just overwhelming. But a structured schedule? That creates familiarity. Familiarity breeds comfort, and comfort actively reduces anxiety. A predictable routine isn't just a basic schedule, it's literally a therapeutic tool. So, one of the absolute best ways to lock in that routine is through adult day programs. I know, families often push back on this hard, picturing a depressing institution or just glorified babysitting. But we need to completely reframe this. These programs are essential. Therapeutic environments run by trained staff who truly understand cognitive engagement and dementia care. The benefits here are huge. We're talking a predictable daily flow, real social interaction, physical activity, and deep cognitive engagement for the person living with dementia. But honestly, equally important, they give you, the caregiver, essential time to rest and recover. Experienced caregivers consistently report that after attending these structured programs, their loved ones actually come home calmer and happier than if they'd just been sitting in the same unchanging house all day. Okay, Section 4, a new way to communicate, changing the conversation. This is where it gets really tough, because you literally have to unlearn decades of habits. We're so used to communicating logically, correcting people, arguing a point, reasoning things out. But with dementia, logic is often just a fast track to distress. You've got to shift to a totally new way of interacting: redirection, validation, calm reassurance, and gentle guidance. It's a massive, but absolutely necessary shift in how you connect. Changing how you talk isn't about winning an argument anymore or proving you're right. It is strictly about reducing fear and preventing unnecessary distress. You aren't expected to perfectly reason with someone who's losing their cognitive abilities. Shifting to validation and simple reassurance is, hands down, the quickest way to de-escalate frustration for the both of you. But hey, what happens when you do all this? You know the techniques, you establish the routines, you shift your communication, and you still feel completely overwhelmed. Well, this leads us to a critical transition question in our breakdown today. Because the reality is, dementia care simply cannot focus solely on the patient. Which brings us perfectly to Section 5, Protecting the Caregiver, the caregiver's safety net. I mean, how do you handle repetitive questions? How do you actually dial down evening agitation? What legal documents do you realistically need? These are the real, everyday questions that determine whether you feel capable or if you feel like you're drowning. And this is exactly why shared wisdom from other caregivers is so invaluable. They have the practical answers that the medical textbooks totally skip over. So many caregivers are just quietly struggling with exhaustion, sleep deprivation, and anxiety, feeling way too ashamed to admit they need a break. We need to reframe that guilt entirely. Recognizing your personal limits, that's an act of responsible caregiving. Asking for help is an act of protection for both you and your loved one. It is never, ever a failure. Honestly, these 4 steps should be handed out as standard issue on day 1. Find a caregiver support group. Learn about those adult day programs early. Build up a network before a crisis hits. And please, ask for help before burnout takes root. You are an absolutely essential, highly visible member of the healthcare team, and you need a strategy to sustain yourself. Sometimes the most valuable advice has absolutely nothing to do with medicine. It comes from someone who has already walked the same path. Support groups and community resources exist specifically because this heartbreaking, incredibly transformative journey was never meant to be walked alone. The best life hacks usually come from someone who figured out the daily workarounds that make life manageable. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one big, provocative question to chew on. Who is in your caregiving network? Look, dementia undoubtedly changes life, but with education, early preparation, and a strong community safety net, you aren't just surviving. You are empowering yourself to continue creating profound moments of connection, dignity, and hope. Take stock of your network today, reach out, and build the support you absolutely deserve.